Hey there, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Levitation Supported Method, Section 3. Now, in this section, we're going to ease up a little bit on Photoshop. Section 2 was pretty in-depth. This section is going to be a little bit easier. We're going to be working more with color and light. Things are going to be a little bit more subjective in this case. Now, I'm going to be making a lot of color choices in this section. For instance, I'm going to be bringing some more blue in from the sky to give it the blue, red, and yellow look that I want in this photo. But keep in mind, color choices, they're totally subjective. So I might say, you know what, I want the image to be a little more cooler, so I'm going to put blues and greens into this image. But when you're editing, you may want a warmer feel, so you're going to put reds and yellows and oranges to give that kind of feel. So don't feel like you have to take everything that I do as far as color goes and apply the same thing with your work. Color is a very subjective thing, and it's in here, right? It's whatever you want to feel. So bring that into your photography. So I want to show you all the techniques. I want to show you everything you need to know in order to apply color, and then it's going to be up to you to jump out and do this the best way on your own photos. Hey there, and welcome to Section 3 of the Beginner's Guide to Levitation. This is the supported method, and we are going to be completing this image in this section. It's going to be great. Let's go ahead and do a quick little recap of what we've done so far, as well as outline what we're going to be doing in this section. So, to start off, we had our background image, which we photographed on a tripod, so the camera stayed in the exact same place during the entire photo shoot. And then we brought 4 different images in together to create our subject. We brought our subject's legs in. Now in this section we also made some pen tool selections here around this area as well as this area and removed a jug that her foot was resting on. We brought in our torso, making sure to keep this fog in there, which is, we had a fog machine right behind there which helped to separate out her hair from the background. Then we brought a new arm in to the photo, which gave just a really nice resting motion here with that rose on the floor. And then top of that, we brought this hair in from another photo and cleaned this area up. So we're in a really great place for this image so far. We've got a few more things to do as far as cleaning up the background goes and some coloring. Let's go ahead and show our original plan here. We've taken care of our subject. We're gonna make this lamp a little bit brighter, give it a really nice glow. We're going to add some blue here. I've got a couple things I would like to clone stamp and remove, like that little guy. We'll get out of there as well. Maybe let's just grab this color there and take care of that little thing up there, and just, you know, anything that's slightly distracting from the overall image. And then we're going to be doing some coloring and some dodging and burning. Let's just write that on here because it's not a B. Dodge and burn. That's what I do for dodge and burn. D and B. Yeah, and then we'll be good to go. So again, having this little plan here is really helpful because it just makes sure that you don't forget anything that you're originally planning on doing. All right. Well, here in our subject group, we're just going to create a new layer inside of here. There we go. That was our plan for the hair, by the way. We don't need to keep that, but if we'd like to, we can put it in the hair group and then just make that invisible. There we go. Let's create a new group here. This doesn't have to be in our subject group, so we'll create a new layer and hit Control or Command G. All right, and we'll just call this Retouch. Okay. Normally, I would do this right over top of the background photo, but because we have so many different photos combined already, it's not a bad idea to just add retouching on the top of things. Okay, let's zoom in here, and we're going to grab our clone stamp tool, so S for the clone stamp tool, and we're just going to take care of a couple little things that kind of pull your eye away from the subject, and I find that it can be a good idea to just remove these things. Some people are purists, and they prefer to keep an image 100%, just as it was taken, and that's totally cool. Whether you're a purist or you'd like to remove objects, either way. I find that I enjoy removing objects that are distracting. I enjoy it. Oh man. So tell me about your hobbies.
Well, I just really enjoy removing distractions from photos. It's quite it's a peaceful pastime. I get to I put some nice calming music on. I pour myself a glass of Chardonnay, and I just go to work with a clone snap tool. All day. I could do it, for I've done it for hours at a time, and I'd like to meet a girl who also enjoys using the clone snap tool as much as I do. But we could clone snap things together, and here I am on Make a Date. That's pretty much, that's me in a nutshell right there. That's yep, that's what you're getting, that's what you paid for. Dinner and a show. You had no idea the show part was coming, did you? Alright, let's keep going before you think I'm crazy. Yeah, it's probably already too late, it's fine. There we go. Using the clone snap tool here to remove all these little guys, and there we go. That bar was just a little bit distracting, so don't mind getting rid of it. Alright, let's see if there are any other areas that we may have missed. Oh, the little thing there on the floor. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's get rid of that little guy too. Alright, it's the edge of a table or something like that. No biggie. Alright, so again, using the clone stamp tool here, sampling an area and then painting right over it. And then we'll sample the floor here and paint in that little line. Alright, looking pretty good. I'm happy with this so far. Let's just look at the retouch before and the after. We're going to zoom in. Let's create another layer. See if there's anything about our subject I'd like to retouch. It's a little bit of a line there in her dress, some seam or something like that. Here we go. Maybe switch from the healing brush to from the clone stamp to the healing brush tool. Let's retouch these little areas. We used like pasties to cover up her nipples, so we're just gonna remove that. Okay, zoom out and make sure that it's nice and seamless. Alright, and the healing brush tool is a great tool for any of this type of work. It just helps to really even things out very nicely. Alright, down to her hand. That looks pretty good. Alright, there we go. Alright, looking great. So we're going to do a little bit of dodging burning, but before we do, I was showing this photo to everyone else who works at Phlearn, and they were saying like they really like her pose and everything is really nice, but it seemed like this area was just a little bit off. So what I did before this tutorial is I brought her butt up just a little bit with the liquefy tool, and it seemed to help out her pose a little bit. So we're going to give it a shot now and see how it goes. So in order to do so, we're going to create a stamp visible layer. So I'm going to create a new layer, and then we're going to hit Shift Option Command E, use an elephant, and that makes a stamp visible layer, which is basically just a copy of everything you see. So this layer has everything on it, which is perfect for a liquefy. So what we're going to do, now that we're on our stamp visible layer, let's go to Filter and down here to Liquefy. Okay. Now with the Liquefy tool, you can play around with all these settings and all these tools. These guys on the left are your different tools for how to liquefy. You have things like the, like this will pull things in, and
I think it's called the pucker tool and the pucker tool and the bloat tool. In my opinion, none of these are really that useful except for the forward warp tool. Forward warp tool is the one I use most of the time, and it's very straightforward. You just click on an area and then push it to drag it around. So we're going to be doing that right here on our butt, and I'm going to be making my brush a little bit larger and just kind of pushing this up just a little bit. It'll help draw a little bit less attention. And as I push this up, what I'm doing is I'm trying to push it up with this fabric. See, if I push it up in that way, the fabric is obviously doesn't look natural. So as I push it up a little bit, I'm kind of trying to follow the direction of the fabric, and that should keep things a little bit more natural. And I'm fortunate here because we don't have floor. Like if I was to do that, you know, it's pretty obvious. Someone used the liquify tool there. So yeah, in this case, we're pretty fortunate in that, you know, these areas you can use the liquify tool pretty easily without it really affecting the rest of the image negatively, because there we go. Let's just pull her arm down a little bit as well, because there's not a ton of detail really right there in these areas. So let's hit OK and see how that looks. You know, not 100% to doing this sort of thing. You know, if you would like to keep things how they are, no problem at all. But we just found that bringing her butt up just a little bit kind of helped give it more of that like levitation type pose. All right, we'll bring this in a little bit too. There we go. Let's hit OK. All right, there's the before and the after. Just kind of draws a little bit less attention there. Let's see if we like that. Yeah, I think it works. As long as she doesn't look like she doesn't have a butt at all. But I think that works. Okay. There we go. Now keep in mind, if I wanted to do some clone stamping or something like that underneath this layer, like if I created something underneath this layer and painted around with my red paintbrush, you won't be able to see anything, right? Because this layer is completely opaque. It's completely, it covers everything. So if you are going to be doing a liquify or something like that, you just want to be pretty sure that you're not going to be going in and making adjustments underneath. If it so happens that you need to make an adjustment underneath, no biggie. Just make this invisible, make your make this invisible, do your adjustments, and then you'll just have to redo your liquify. Or you can make your adjustments over top of this layer. So just something to keep in mind there. All right, let's do some dodging and burning. Dodging burning is great. We've done it in the other two levitation tutorials as well. Super simple here. We're going to be using our brush tool. We're going to paint with a flow of about 10 or 20%. So to get there, just hit Shift 1 or Shift 2. Shift 1 will get you 10%, Shift 2 will get you 20%. When you're in your brush tool, and you want to be on a new layer, and you want to change your layer blend mode from normal down here to soft light. Okay, and I'm going to jump right into it here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to paint. We're going to paint with white over top of any area that's a little bit lighter that we want to draw a little more attention to. And as is the case with the other photos in this short series, I am going to be focusing a decent bit on her dress, because fabric is really it takes dodging and burning very well in my experience. Sometimes you can make people look a little bit weird if you're not careful, you know, and sometimes you can go overboard. But I find that fabric is a really good place to kind of start with, because it tends to add a lot more detail to fabric. We have so many, like all these little wrinkles and everything like that, so many differences between light and dark here. It really does just help out in bringing that detail to life a little bit better. All right, just want to be kind of light-handed with this, and then choose a, there we go, choose a brush size that is pretty similar to the fold that you're going to be actually affecting, you know. There we go. And it's just going to help bring a little bit more local contrast into these areas. So let's show the before and the after there. So, you know, it's nothing where you want to like turn that layer off and on and be like, whoa, that totally changed everything. Just enough where it's like, oh, okay, cool. This image, it's got a little bit more contrast now. Shapes are a little bit better defined. And, yeah, and I feel like I can kind of better see what shapes are going out. It tends to make things look a little bit more interesting too. Alright, there we go. We're going to bring this up and kind of define that a little bit better. See that on our rib cage there? Nothing overboard, you know, not going crazy, but it definitely helped to like bring that definition. And the key here is to paint white over the light color areas and paint black over the darker areas. So you're essentially making your lights a little bit lighter and your blacks a little bit, and your darks a little bit darker. Yep, and then again I just want to stress that you want to use about the same brush size as the object you're trying to either dodge or burn. That's going to help things look realistic. Alright, there we go. And if you do this and it doesn't come out exactly how you want, no big deal. Just hit E for the eraser tool. You can erase areas away, not a problem. Just erase them away and start over again. It's a really great way to practice working on images. Alright, let's do a little bit here on her neck, just a little bit. Just to help give that a little bit more definition. Because that is so nice how the light just really rolls off of her cheek. Alright. Paint a little bit there on her hair. Great. Alright. That looks great. Let's just turn this retouch group off and on so we can see, you know, kind of the differences that we've made so far. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. Okay, next we're going to, let's close this group out. We're going to create a new layer. Hit Command or Control G on this, and we're going to call this color. Alright, the first thing I'd like to do is add a little bit more blue to the window. Again, we're going to be playing with blue, red, and yellow in this image. Those colors go very well together. So we're going to grab our curves adjustment layer, go over here to my different color channels, and we're going to go right here and pull in some more blue. There we go. Now oftentimes I find, and this seems a little bit weird, but if you are adding blue to photos, it tends to look a little bit fake unless you add a little bit of green too. So we're going to just pump in a tiny bit of green too, and that usually helps things to look a little bit more real. I'm not sure why, just does. Here on our layer mask, we're going to hit Control or Command I on that, and then I'm going to paint white on my layer mask, you know, where my fog is, and really bring this color in fog and over top of the windows here. Alright, so you can see we're not, you know, I don't need to go crazy with the blue. It's not like something where it's like, okay, I need the whole image to be blue. Just a little bit, you know, can go a long way. Alright, and then we want to use a pretty large soft edge brush. Here we go. We can already see how that's really nice. If you need to add more, which I'm going to look at doing, just go back into your adjustment layer, go back to your blue channel, and you can, you know, crank this up or down or whatever you want. Alright, that looks pretty good. And always, always, always remember that you can change this, okay? You're not stuck with this. I can make this layer invisible. I can, you know, do that if I wanted to. I don't, but you're not stuck with this, okay? Same thing. Let's grab an adjustment layer. We're going to go to curves again, so another curves adjustment layer. Remember here in our original plan, I wanted to add some blue here, okay? We also want to make this light look like it's kind of shining on. So in order to do that, we're going to bring up our brightness a little bit. Okay, now this color we want to be like kind of orange, right? So a good way to make orange, you got a little bit of red, okay? You got a little bit of green, and then take away a little bit of blue, which the opposite of blue is yellow. But again, this tends to look kind of fake. Like, kind of nothing is that color, right? Like, unless you're photographing like a bottle of pee or something, I don't know. But very little looks like that in real life. So go easy with it. There we go. And for all of you who are pee photographers, good luck with that. I hope that treats you well. All right, there we go. So we're gonna paint. We're gonna have a black layer mask, and then we're gonna paint white on it over top of our lamp here. So that kind of turns that on. And then you know what we're also gonna do? We're gonna paint some white over top of here on our subject. These highlight areas, and then I'm gonna show you something really cool that you can do with the blending mode. That's just gonna help it. Help everything kind of blend together. All right. Yeah, then we're just going to create a very large soft edge brush and kind of give this a little bit more room to glow. There we go. All right, paint a little bit more on the floor here, and okay. I don't want to paint too much over here, right? Because that's gonna like cool that, or sorry, it's gonna warm all this area up, which we don't really want. I want to keep this relatively cool, right? Keep it cool, man. There, that's looking pretty good. Ooh, let's warm that up. We'll take care of this in just a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to look at doing is we're going to look at going into our layer effects and look at what we can do with what's called blend if, which allows us to blend in based on the highlights and the shadows of our image. All right, let's zoom out. Sometimes it helps to be zoomed out. Like when I'm working with color, you can zoom out to get a good idea, because like I can't judge the color of the whole image looking at it this close, right? It's kind of tough. So zooming out actually helps sometimes. All right, let's double click on this layer right here, which will bring up our layer style. You can also get to that by going to FX and then down to blending options. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to use blend if, which is down here at the bottom, and I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click from left to the right, and what this is going to do is it's going to start to hide this layer from any of the underlying area that is darker. So now this layer is no longer visible in the dark areas. Let's just use our slider to see, like, okay, it's only visible in our light areas. Okay, and here's the preview, the before and the after. So it affects the light areas, which makes sense because it's you know, I turned this on. It's like a light, right? Bonk. So it'll affect the light areas. Which I like in general, and I think I do like this effect. We're still in the deciding phase. I don't have to use blend if. I can do whatever we want. I think I like that, but I liked it a little bit as well in the other places. So we're just going to duplicate this layer, so it's going to be visible in some of the other places as well. Let's turn off the blend if on this one. Okay, and now we're just going to really lower our opacity because we don't need it quite so much. And then, yeah, that looks good. And you know what? Since we have such a lower opacity, I'm going to paint white on a little bit more of the image. Okay, we'll lower the opacity of this one too because it's like double effect now. All right, so there's our before and the after with that one. Okay, because you don't want to go too much. If you go too much, then it looks like you did it in Photoshop, and it doesn't, you know, you don't want to take away from the realism. All right, there we go. There's our color so far. I think we're looking pretty good. Let's see about adding a little bit of color to the couch here behind us. So we're going to go to Hue, Saturation, Adjustment Layer, add some saturation to start off. Let's hit Command or Control I on the layer mask, and then I'm going to paint white here on the couch. Alright. Just using our layer mask. Now, if you feel like using, your pen tool and, getting a very accurate selection and painting over this couch and stuff like that, that's great. It's a really good time to practice and get some exercise with your pen tool. Generally with this sort of thing, unless you're just really, really changing the color, you can get away with just using a brush tool. Alright, just remember, make your brush a little bit smaller over the areas that you plan on painting that are smaller, and then use a larger brush over larger areas. Alright, there we go. And now I can look at changing the hue a little bit. Oh gosh. Let's change our saturation. Alright, that looks good. The couches stand out, although it's way too strong of an effect, right? So we're just going to lower the opacity a little bit. Alright, I think I like that. This is the sort of thing where you kind of want to color it, and then it's a good idea to step away from the image for just a little bit and then come back to it and see oh, do I really like that, or did I just like it at that time? Alright, next we're going to do a little bit more dodging and burning. Let's create a new layer, brush tool, and then we're going to paint with soft light. And this time we're going to, enhance our shadow a little bit here. There we go. Again, make your brush about the size of the shadow you're going to wind up painting. This is so nice because we have a real shadow that we actually photographed, so there's no fakery involved here. It's it's actual real, which is always going to look better. I prefer to photograph, everything that I possibly can. I mean, I love Photoshop. It's an awesome tool that helps you, really make images great. But if you don't start with really great images, then it's not nearly as powerful, I've found. So, yeah, one thing to just kind of keep in mind. Okay, a little bit of dodging and burning on the image as a whole. Just, makes things a little more interesting. A little glow right there. Alright, there we go. Okay, this color, I'm not sold. I think it's a little bit too green. Yeah, there we go. If you were looking at that image, by the way, and you were like, I didn't see that it was too much green, how do you know how to do that? The short answer is, honestly, it's taken me years of looking at images to see it's a little bit too much green. But a good way to kind of test it is if you're curious, grab a curves adjustment layer and try putting a little bit more red, and then pull red down a little bit and see which version you like better. That's a good way to know. This is cyan, and that's a little bit more red. So that's a good way to kind of get there. All right, let's add some red into our rose. Some red. Hit Controller Command I on that adjustment layer. So you can see a lot of what we're doing. It's not rocket scientists. Nope. It's not rocket science. It's kind of similar steps. Create an adjustment layer, adjust the color, invert the layer mask, paint it in where you'd like it to be painted in. Put a little bit of color there in the ground as well. Okay. Curves. A new one. We'll put some green in there. No, that green looks fake, doesn't it? Let's put a little bit of red in there too. It's amazing what you can learn about color just
you know, opening up a curves adjustment layer and mixing things together. It's like, oh, you know, pure green doesn't look so good. Let's put some red or some blue in there, and that's going to look a lot more natural. I'm sure you've seen, you know, photos that have been colored in Photoshop, and they don't quite look real anymore. And maybe that's happened to you. So my suggestion would be, you know, don't feel like you need to stick with just pure green. Like if that looks green, cool. But it may have, the green may have a little bit of red in it too. So give that a try. All right, let's see what our color group looks like before and after. I think pretty good. Let's grab an adjustment layer, do some curves. We're going to give this a little bit of vignetting here. Hit Controller Command I on our layer mask, and then with a very large soft edge brush, we're just going to kind of paint dark around our edges here, especially up there because it's kind of a little weird. Get a light source going on over there. Okay, and then we're just going to do general curves. I'm going to make the darks just a little bit lighter. Hit Controller Command I, and then we're going to kind of, we did light rays in the other images, and I like light rays, they're fun. But in this one, I didn't really want the light rays to be so well defined. I thought that, you know, just a little something to help draw attention to our subject, but we don't need it to be like super defining. All right, these colors are pretty good, but I'm not in love with the colors just yet. Maybe we'll drop the green just a little bit more. Just click on your green, and then you can use like your up and down arrows. All right, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to crop the image a little bit, I think. C for the crop tool. We'll just kind of take this in just a little bit. Controller Command H will hide your selection if you don't want to. And you can also, by the way, if you want to go into your settings, you can change your opacity of like the border here. So like you don't have to actually crop it to see what it would look like. Like you can change this. So I can see like, yeah, is that a decent crop? Do I want to move it? And it'll, you know, it'll show you like the done version. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually. Alright, because you want your image to be nicely balanced within the frame. Some people think that for them they'd like to have it perfectly cropped in camera, and I love that idea. For me, it just never ends up working out that way. For me, I'm like, I kind of need to crop it because I didn't do so good in camera. But again, whichever way is good for you. You can also use the up, down, left, and right arrows to get that right. But honestly, I've found that like how you crop a photo can make a big difference in the end result. So I'd say that, you know, never feel like you can't crop a photo. And you can even rotate a photo if you'd like to. Give it a little bit of rotation. Oh, that's funky. What about if we rotate it the other way? That does not look as good. All right, there we go. That looks pretty good. I like that. I think I like that anyway. Let's rotate it a little bit more. Okay, what I'm looking for, by the way, just so you know, is I'm looking at all my corners. I'm seeing, you know, what's important in this image. Obviously, it's her, right? She's looking out in that direction. We've got action going out in that direction. So I want a bit of breathing room here. Like this would not be a good crop because it's too tight here. She's looking out in that way. We want some breathing room. I don't need a ton of room over here because, you know, it just ends at her feet. I don't need my viewer to be looking right here. So I want my viewer to be looking here. So I want to make sure that that's in like a nice, like a general third of the image. I also like it, you know, this pole here, I like that it's pretty much going into the corner there. It ends nicely.
Cutting off the couch, getting rid of more detail here. There was a table here that I didn't think added to the image. Making sure that she's a decent balance between the bottom and the top of the image. She can go a little bit lower, I think. Those are all the things that I'm kind of looking at with my crop. So let's hit that check button. And you know, there's no right or wrong answer here. There really isn't. Just do whatever you feel may make the image better. And as long as you don't click this delete crop pixels button, you can always get it back. Like I can hit Control Command Z, and so yeah, let's look at the before and after. So here's the before. A little bit too much included. I can, like, all the things that I didn't really love about this photo were towards the edges. Like this table, a little bit of the flare. This is just kind of, I don't need to see that detail where the couch ends and the wall stops. And then now it's like, it's just a little more simple. And it's more to the point, more direct. And yeah, I like it a little more. I think she could move up in the frame just a little bit. Okay, but you can change that at any point in time as long as you have this unchecked. All right, that looks great. Okay, we're almost done. The last thing I'd like to do here is we're going to do a color balance. So let's grab an adjustment layer, and I'm going to go down here to color balance. There we go. We're going to start off with the highlights. And you know what? I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. When I get to this place, I'm always just kind of, I'm kind of experimenting, to be honest. I don't know exactly, you know, sometimes it's surprising. Sometimes I'll throw a bunch of green on a photo and they'll be like, I love that. The heck? Why do I like that so much? Because it just fits with the mood of the photo. Sometimes not at all. You know, it's, it really tends to be photo to photo here. So, you know, don't feel like there's any formula, and don't feel like you have any restrictions, because you never know. You always want to get in there and play around. It's color. It's fun. All right, what does that look like? Just gives that a little bit like a bluish green color to the window there, and cools up the image and adds a little bit of red. You can see into my midtones there. Yeah, I like that. Let's lower the opacity a little bit, just so it's not, you know, overwhelming in any way. But yeah, we're looking great. We're looking great. Okay, there we go. That's our image. Let's go ahead and we'll review everything we've done. Let's make sure we've done anything, by the way. Dodge and burn, clone stamped areas that we needed to clone stamp. Worked on, coloring, adding blue, turning that light on, and combining those 4 areas of our subject. So, looks great. Let's go back to our original. This is our background photo. Then we add our subject. She's made up of several different layers. So we have legs, torso, arm, and hair. Okay. Then we're popping on our retouching, getting rid of some details, bringing her butt up, doing a little bit of dodging and burning. And then we're adding our color, which, man, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Let's bring our opacity down just a little bit on that. As a human, we tend to have the inclination to exaggerate things a little bit. So if I am doing extreme coloring on a photo like this, I'll bring the opacity down a little bit at the end, just to kind of like check myself before I wreck myself. There we go. All right. Great job. Great photo. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. Thanks a lot for purchasing this pro tutorial. We put a ton of effort into it, and I really hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, have a great rest of your life until I see you soon in the next pro tutorial. All right. Thanks again, guys. Hopefully learn you later.
And now it's time for you to take your own levitation photos. Get out there and use some of these techniques that we showed you in the photography section of this tutorial. Whether you're going to do the jumping method, the falling method, or the supported method, you can get beautiful photos from all 3. So choose the one that's going to best fit for what you can get done in your own life, maybe this weekend, you never know, but you don't want it to be something that's like, oh, maybe I could do that in a year. If you just try something today, it's going to really help bring you to the next step. Thanks again for watching these tutorials, guys. We really appreciate you hanging out with me at Phlearn.com. All right, we'll Phlearn you later. Good luck levitating.